Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming this evening. I don't know if you're aware of this title, A Tale of this, John, courtesy of John here. A Tale of Two Cities or Two Port Cities. Anybody recognise A Tale of Two Cities?
Yes.
Please, yeah.
The book.
Yeah.
French Revolution. The French Revolution.
Yeah. Who wrote it?
Oh, I don't know.
Charles
It's a
Dickens.
good book, though.
Charles Dickens, yes, a Hampshire man, Charles Dickens, born in Portsmouth, yeah. So, A Tale of Two Cities, which covers, it's quite a broad sort of spectrum, because I've been working in shipping, how long do you reckon I've been working in the business? That was me starting my career in '65. So, to continue with the Charles Dickens, it was the best of years. This is how he started his tale of Two Cities. It was the best of years, that's 1965. So that was me kicking off about 50 years ago, and I'm just about coming to the end now. That was the best of years, that was the worst of years. You can see here, I was starting my career in British shipping, UK flagged shipping, and 1965, 70s, it was cool, everything was great. But then things went a little, can you see what happened around mid to late 70s? It went downhill rapidly. And there are many economic and logistical reasons for that. And it went downhill, although it seemed to be going through the floor, and then suddenly there was a revival when we had a tonnage tax 10, 15 years ago, and we've seen, very much surprising to me, we've seen a recovery. But it's a different type of shipping. But you can see my career in shipping had to change. So I went from the sharp end of shipping to becoming more in the training and academic side of shipping. So that's my first lesson of the day. It's a very erratic and unstable industry. It has good years and it has bad years. It has rock and roll. And what's the opposite of rock and roll? I suppose would it be the blues? Yeah. Part of the explanation, of course, British shipping was disappearing, but shipping wasn't disappearing, and ships were appearing under different types of flags, like Liberia and Panama. Panama is the number one today in the world. That's the Panamanian flag, I should add. So. Yeah, so Panama and Liberia, they're the kings of ship owning as regards the flag. The capital in the ships is probably elsewhere, as we'll see as we progress. So that's me 50 years on. That's me in Panama just last year sometime. So part of my role, I've been working in the Panama Canal. As you're aware, next year, early next year, the new locks will open and we'll be expecting bigger ships. And so I've been involved there in the business sort of strategy of setting up their plans for the future. So this has been the sort of areas of my work in recent years, especially. I'm going to talk some of my time about this experiment in Hamburg. When I left Southampton Institute, I went to London Metropolitan University. London Metropolitan has a long history of seafarer sort of training. So I left London Met about nearly 10 years ago, 8 years ago or something. But I had many connections in Hamburg. Hamburg, a major shipping centre, big ship owning centre, big port, lots of people working in the ports. They were very keen to develop their programs for people working in the shipping industry, and they wanted to have a bachelor program in shipping and transport. And they were looking, the Hamburg ship owners and the Hamburg Chamber of Commerce, they were looking to get into partnership with a university, you see, to develop their shipping business sort of training and qualifications. So I became, they came round to see me, they remembered me from London, and to discuss the idea of having a London and Hamburg. So this is partly where the Tale of Two Cities comes from, you see, this title. So what makes it all work? What was the rationale? But very much in Hamburg, the German system very strongly vocationally based. They learn, the way their program works, you do 6 weeks in industry, 6 weeks in the Polytechnic, in the school, and 6 weeks, and back and two. So it's very, very vocationally focused. And your tutor will visit you in industry, and industry will visit you in school. So this is a 2.5 to 3 year program that they do. So it's a very, very good standard, and it's supported by the Chamber of Commerce, the Hamburg ship owners, and the government of the federal states. Just to show how big shipping is in Germany, this is every year they have an annual dinner just before Christmas, the Eisbeinessen, and at least 5,000 people sit down to dinner. These are all shipping people in Hamburg, and there's another 5,000 drinking in various, in the area. So nobody really knows how many people are involved in this festival. It's almost a 24-hour festival. But it just shows the scale of shipping and the shipping business in Hamburg. There's by Essen. Also, we still see in Germany, and certainly in Hamburg, they still have shipbuilding in Germany and dry docks. Our queens go to Hamburg for dry docking, or Bremen, or Bremerhaven. You can see the Queen Mary here. That's when she was registered in Southampton, by the way. Do you know where she's registered now? The Queen Mary? Anybody know? Bermuda, yeah. Hamilton, Bermuda. If we look about who owns the ships of the world, maybe this tells us something why shipping is such a big industry still. Who owns the ships of the world? Well, the Greeks are up there, number one. Ella, the Greeks. Do we have any Greek students? Ella, so you're number one. But you're not flying the Greek flag so much. Can you see? Can you see that red bit there? That's you guys, the Greek flag. Which flags are you flying? Where are your flags? Ella, you Greeks? Are you Panamanian, Liberian, Cyprus, Marshall Islands, And, okay, this is not a criticism because everybody else is doing it. Japanese, massive ship owners. I mean, the Greeks have 260 million deadweight of ships. Japan, China. But you can see the Germans there are still in the business. Okay, they're not flying the German flag so much, but they're still in the shipping business. Where are we in Britain? Just about here, just around the 50 million. And many of those ships are via the tonnage tax system. What's relevant today? So it's very similar. I'm sure what you're learning here in Southampton, what you would learn in Tokyo, what you would learn in Vancouver, what you would learn in Piraeus, what you would learn in Hamburg, wherever in the world, you see. So these sort of topics, you'd be learning about Charles of Parties and logistics and economics and economies of scale and diseconomies, ISM, environment, MARPOL. In Panama, the term is the Neo-Panamax, the new size of Panama ships. So that's a topic for the future, how Panama, and of course you've probably heard of the competition to Panama, the possible competition to Panama is Nicaragua, a new canal in Nicaragua. So watch the space. Neo-Panamax is the new Panamax size. And looking at different trade routes like the Arctic, Northern Seas routes. I'm rushing through this, but this is my work in Brunei, but also Panama is very interested in this. How does the Arctic Sea, global warming and ships crashing across the top of Russia, how is that going to affect traditional sea routes? So when we said zeitgeist, hey guys, this is the future. This is important that we're aware of what could be happening in the future. So LNG ships, northern sea routes, distance savings. So this was, I think this was looking at Colombian coal from using the Panama Canal, the distance savings that you could make to Japan. This is Hamburg tooling up for the future. New cranes. Economies of scale are very much driving the bigger ships. More investment in ports infrastructure. This is something that, this is one of the China shipping ships. Quite interested in, as a closing point, I think, if this is the economies of scale, can you see how, as the size of ship increases, the cost per box, per TEU should come down. But eventually, it may start to rise. Well, it will rise. Eventually, you will get the ship, the supply chain, the ship will be too big. There'll be law of diminishing returns will kick in. The ship will become too big for the ports, for the supply chain. See? So when this happens, we get this economies of scale. If we're measuring the costs here on this axis, you can see here that the cost per TEU starts to rise. Now we're just wondering, where that will be. So I like students to be thinking about, at the moment you're seeing history being made. Container ships are getting bigger and bigger, so it's quite exciting. But we don't know where the cut-off point will be. We were here with tankers many years earlier in the 1970s. Would we have a 1 million ton? Well, we had a 500,000 deadweight tanker. Will we go for the 1 million ton tanker? The economies of scale, fantastic. But we started to see this occurring. Once you got much over 300,000 or 400,000 deadweight, the economies of scale turned into negatives, diseconomies. You see, are we about to see this with container ships? This was just a study on some evidence in Antwerp, Hamburg and Rotterdam last year, where the ports were finding it very, very difficult to handle the very large ships. And it was not so much the ship itself, but the supply chain, getting the boxes through the hinterland. A large container ship, 16, 17, 18,000, 19,000, whatever, they're growing all the time, probably has a box exchange in Hamburg or Rotterdam of about 7,000 boxes. That can create a lot of supply chain friction. And of course we saw that, so we've seen that in Rotterdam, we've seen that in Hamburg, we've seen it in Antwerp recently. That's just a quick look at the port of Rotterdam, and historically the ports of Rotterdam started up here and has moved downstream. This is typical of port developments, so logistics of ports. As ships have got bigger, searching for deeper water and more space, of course, you've had to move nearer to the estuary. So Rotterdam down towards Europort here is typical of that. Do you know the new port that's happened in the Thames last year? What's that one? Thames? The Thames Gateway. Moving a long way out to sea for the deeper water. Yeah. So I think I'll sort of maybe adjourn there.